Hey everyone, welcome to our inaugural group consulting meeting. I'm so excited to have you all here today. I am Stephanie Chandler, CEO of the Nonfiction Authors Association, and joining me to assist with the consulting aspect of this event today is Carla King. Carla, would you please introduce yourself for those who maybe don't know you just yet?
Sure. And you asked me to give you a 2 or 3 minute background on me, who has joined last year. Thank you, Stephanie, the staff, the team at the Nonfiction Authors Association as VP of Business Development, and also as the podcast host for the Nonfiction Authors podcast, which is going great. I love it. But my story, like all of yours, is unique. I started self-publishing way back in '95 with a bicycle touring guide to Nice, France, where I lived. And publishers really loved it, but they wanted a bigger book. I was a tech writer, so I figured out how to self-publish, and it was a real success in that I made money from it. Yay. Also in '95, I was invited to do this thing we eventually called blogging for a company who was experimenting with this other new thing called the World Wide Web that lived on the internet. So I said yes and combined my three passions, which were writing, motorcycle travel, and geeky tech stuff, and sent real-time dispatches from the solo journey around America on a Russian sidecar motorcycle that broke down every few days. Thus, was helpful in creating lots of dramatic stories for all 500 of the people on the internet at the time. And I did later create a memoir from that. So we all have our stories. And so sort of my book and my journalism supported each other, because I kept traveling and blogging and became a columnist for magazines, reporting from trips all over the world, talking about motorcycles, my expertise. And then my expertise became self-publishing and the World Wide Web. And so I started teaching that, creating webzines, author websites, how to use MySpace and Facebook and Twitter, if you remember that. And eventually my class workbooks became my self-publishing guide, which is now in its 5th edition. So that and my experience with a writing group called the Wild Writing Women, I fell also in love with writing groups and writing workshops and creating anthologies and collaborating and editing and just working with other writers. When the self-publishing technologies came around, that was about 2007, if you remember, when Amazon created the Kindle. I started following tech tools and became the self-publishing columnist for the PBS Media Shift column on all kinds of technology. And that list of tech tools became the consumer's guide for authors, editors, and publishers, which I still try to maintain today. And I realized after this week experimenting with some ChatGPT that I'm going to have to add a section on AI for writers. So with all that, along with Stephanie, I'm looking forward to your questions about publishing. And between us, we're likely to have the answer for sure and be able to point you to the right resources and suggest a path. So I hope if you don't have a question that my long list of experiences gave you some ideas.
Carla, thank you. I'm so thrilled to have Carla with us because she and I have shared the stage at many writers' conferences over the years, and we would always have these great discussions. And last year I was really looking for more experienced help within our group, and it just hit me one day, Carla would make a great addition. So she's been wonderful. So if you don't know me, I'm Stephanie Chandler. I left the Silicon Valley way back in 2003, 20 years ago. I had a soul-sucking software sales job, but I had come from technical training. I taught and developed courses, which was my favorite real job I ever had. But I moved up to Sacramento and I opened a brick and mortar bookstore and thought I'd write novels in the back office. And it turned out I was a terrible fiction writer. So I had to take some detours, and I'm so thrilled Mike Larson's here today. I love to tell the story of how I went to the San Francisco Writers Conference. He was co-founder with his wife, Elizabeth, in 2005, and I was there to pitch a business book. And they had the speed dating with agents, and I did that. And after the conference, I came back and my phone rang one day, and it was Mike Larson, literary agent, renowned literary agent. And he said, I like what you're doing, but nobody knows who you are. You need to go build an audience. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just left the Silicon Valley. He's like, you need to be speaking, hundreds and thousands of people each year. And I thought, how the heck am I going to do that? Well, I launched a website. And back then I was writing small business and doing some small business stuff on the side of my bookstore. And so I built a website called Business Info Guide, and I started writing articles. This was before I even knew what a blog was. I was writing articles. And long story short, I self-published that first book. I signed with an agent the next year because I was able to show I had a high traffic website, and that self-published book was selling because I had an audience. And then we sold 3 traditionally published books. And then I got kind of turned off by traditional publishing, quite honestly, because of the lack of control and the making $1 a book and all the frustrations that came with that. And by then I had started my own publishing company, Authority Publishing. So I brought my books back in-house. I started the Nonfiction Writers Conference in 2010, and the association followed in 2013. So I have walked in your shoes as well. Carla and I don't have celebrity friends. We've never been on a reality show. Like, we're real people, just like you, who have just done the work, the hard work that it takes to get where you want to be. And so that's what we want to help you accomplish today. All right. So yeah, in the comments, it would be great to share what it is that you write about when you get a chance there. Let us know what your genre or genres are. And now what I would love to do is start taking some of your questions. You can either do the little raise your hand icon on your screen. I'm not sure where you see that because, of course, I have the host screen. But you could do the little raise your hand icon, or you can wave at me. Right now I can see almost everybody on my screen here. It's moving around. Is anybody going to be brave and kick us off with a question?
Upper right corner there.
We have three. Mhm.
Oh, you see them? Oh, I see. Thank you. I see them. All right. Andrea, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute and give us your question. And for the rest of you, continue to raise your hand. It'll put you in our queue. And then we'll just take each question as they come. I did want to make sure we're time conscious and no more than maybe 5 minutes. We want to make sure everybody gets a chance to get their questions answered. If at the end we have time, we can always come back and continue speaking with any specific person. All right, Andrea.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Very nice to see you in person. I've been to a lot of your webinars. And Carla, we've met several times with the Publishers and Writers of San Diego, which I've been a member of for a long time. So I've written 2 books in the genre of how to write books. I work with first-time nonfiction authors. I'm working on my 3rd book that I want to talk more about the aspect of being in business when you have a book. And I have some really good ideas. But I would like to enhance my book with interviews. So I need some help on how to choose the best people and how to approach them, because I obviously want some people who have a little bit more experience in the industry than I do, and potentially might even, want to help market my book because their stories are going to be in there. But I've seen a lot of books that have interviews, and I think it would really enhance my book. So I just need to know how to go about finding the right people and how to approach them.
Is it for the publishing business or for general business?
The book is about how to build a business based on your book, because I believe, I'm a service provider, I'm a book coach, but when I had a book, I became a product person. I wasn't just marketing a service, I'm marketing a product. And so I think a lot of authors, indie authors, need to know that they're in business. And so I want to talk about the business of being an author and, building writing a business plan and how to build out your business. Maybe you'll develop courses, or maybe you'll publish other people's books, or you'll write more books. So I want to explore all the different opportunities. And I'd like to have interviews with people who have done some of those things to build their book business.
So, I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on this because I love to include interviews in my books. This is actually something I've done from the very beginning. I use written interviews at the end of most chapters of my books. And I would say start looking in different industries, because you're going to want a mix of, you don't want everybody coming from, consulting. You want to come up with people who are doing different things. And I mean, you're going to have to ask on social media for recommendations. I call it your tribe of influence, the people who do they know that has a book and a successful business, that's built around it. Because a lot of people have a book and they have a business, but it doesn't mean it's working. So let's make sure it's working and start asking around. And then do some Amazon searches. I've done things where I've gone and I've thought about, okay, what's an industry I'd like to cover? For example, pet business, like a pet business expert. And I will search that on Google and I'll find 5 pet business experts and figure out which one's written a book and does the business look successful. So you can get creative with Google searches. Carla, did you have anything?
If I was to approach you though, and say, hey, Stephanie, I'd love to interview you for my book, what would have you say yes to a request from someone you don't know?
That's a good question. I guess I would like to see that, some sort of marketing plan. What kind of following do you have?
Okay.
What's the publishing plan?
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm asked for an interview, I go and I look up the website of the person asking to interview and, just see how experienced they look.
Okay.
Yeah, and jumping in here is you can look for these people also, and LinkedIn is a pretty reliable place to find professionals.
Mhm.
And I hate to say it, but Twitter has been a great tool. I'm not sure it is that anymore. That will pan out, yes or no, in the future. But yes, I also, when I am asked for an interview, I just do a quick look and see if their values are aligned with mine, and if their audience is wide, which doesn't make that much of a difference, really. I mean, I realize that, especially in the motorcycle and self-publishing industries, my name will bring audience to their site. So I want to make sure that I'm represented well there, that it's a professional website, it looks good, it looks professional, and that what you have to say is professional. And I think Michael had something to say as well.
Yeah, Mike, what do you want to share?
Well, a couple of things. You may want to think about the size of the book. In other words, the interviews should be more or less of kind of the same length. You want 120 pages and 1 big extremes. So you want to think about how big a book you want and how many interviews you want. And certainly, as I think Stephanie mentioned, to have like just have one plumbing person, if you're going to have that. Just throw out a word. So you'll have different people in different fields, and that might be a way of structuring the book in terms of products and services. One thing about people who've gone global. It's the best time ever to be a writer, and one reason is more ways to make money from your ideas than ever. So people that have found diverse ways of making offering a diverse array of products and services. But it seems to me, and Stephanie's totally right, the email letter that you send to people is going to determine, whether they click on the links you provide and whether they think your background makes you sufficiently able to do this. But Rupi Kaur came to mind, who started off as a self-published poet. Robert Kiyosaki, huge in finance, it was originally self-published. Seth Godin might be the ultimate person in terms of building a business in the field of marketing. And any of these people, and anytime you write to somebody, you always ask if they know of any people who fit the criterion, which you would have in your letter.
Okay.
A really interesting question, Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your help. I appreciate
Enjoyed
it.
that. Thank you. Lori.
Hi,
Hi.
I am preparing to launch my first book. And I am in the nuts and bolts and in the weeds now of EPUB files and figuring out the launch plan. And so I have a couple questions, but I'm going to start with this one. I'm trying to build a launch team. And of course, family and friends are the first people that come to mind. I have heard that Facebook sells their data to Amazon, and Amazon basically gets rid of any reviews from anyone you're associated with on Facebook. And so my question is, do you know exactly how far that runs? I don't want to ask people for favors, send them my book, ask them to read the book, ask them for a review if their review is going to get kicked off of Amazon. And there's a million groups on Facebook, some of them with thousands of people. If I'm in the same group as someone on Facebook who writes a review, is their review going to be removed by Amazon? So how do I think about getting those first 20 reviews and not wasting people's time because their review's going to get kicked off?
So one way to prevent issues with Amazon is to make sure your reviewers say, I received an advanced review copy of this book in exchange for my honest review. I think it's super important that they call that out. And yes, Amazon and Facebook are somehow connecting. We don't know exactly how, but we're seeing where some reviews disappear and some don't go anywhere. I mean, Carla has reviewed my books. I've reviewed her books. So, and they're still there on Amazon. So I just think it's important that you instruct your reviewers to state that they received a copy of the book, which also helps because those reviews aren't going to show up as a verified purchase. So you want them to qualify why they're reviewing the book. Does that help?
What about Goodreads?
What was that?
I'm gonna look into Goodreads as well. I don't know how much of my audience is there, but that's another plan.
Well, Lori, also, you need to start sending your advanced reader copies out far and wide and get beta readers. And these don't necessarily need to be people, or may not be people on in your Facebook group or your Facebook friends. So the more copies you can send out for free, and just give everybody your book, really, and nurture them through an email funnel to read it, stay excited about it, be a part of the street team. Stephanie talks about this in her book marketing classes, and you'll get many more people than friends that you have on Facebook, I think.
Yeah.
And by everyone, let me just clarify too, giving everyone a copy of your book. I think it needs to be everyone who's interested in your genre, right? Because I'm sure Carla has the same issue. People mail me books all the time that I'm never going to read. They're not my genre. By the way, I don't write book reviews. So it's a waste of time unless it's a publishing industry related book. I'm never going to read it. I'm going to end up donating it or putting it in my little free library in front of my house. So don't waste your time and money sending out books to the wrong people. But Carla is absolutely right. I'm a huge believer in beta readers. Get as many people as you can interested and excited about the book before it comes out.
And there, both Stephanie and I use a beta reader application form to vet our beta readers. And these may or may not be influencers. Of course, you want to nurture your influencers because they have between 1,000 and 10,000, especially what we call micro influencers, who are more likely to review your book than the celebrities. So nurture them, but also have a beta reader form for people who, and ask them if they have a Facebook page, if they're active on Twitter, if they're active on Instagram. And we have models for that too, if you want to ask us later.
All
right. Great question, Lori. Thank you.
That's
add something.
Real quick.
I think having a book is an opportunity to let everybody on the planet you want to know about you. If there's somebody who can help you get speaking gigs, they should see it. If there are people in academia or in politics or the government or your field, they should see it. And there's different ways you can get it to them, a PDF, a manuscript. I don't know if you want to mention NetGalley, but if somebody can help you, you want them to see it, no matter who they are or where they are. Or at least send them a letter asking if they want to, a PDF, a printed book if they're important enough, whatever.
That's a wise point. I like to ask before I go. I don't just ship out books willy-nilly. I ask first. So that's a good point, Mike.
And then I'm just going to do one more thing because everybody's going to want this. I don't give out physical books at all unless they really are influencers. I use BookFunnel to deliver in EPUB or Kindle or PDF, whatever they need.
Yeah, BookFunnel is a great tool. We've been using it for actually a lot of things in our book awards as well. Hey, Diane, how are you? And please go ahead and share your question with us.
Hello, everyone. So happy to be here. Well, thank you guys so much for this topic was burning in my brain, and I'm glad that you brought it up regarding I'm actually, my nonfiction book turned into a memoir. So I'm excited about that. I will be working with a developmental editor / line editor beginning in April. So I'm still in writing the book and very excited about it. Pouring tons of stuff into it. So I guess what I was thinking about, I heard a lot, well, I've heard some rumors that from my reading that self-publishing is basically the way to go these days. I was considering trying to look for a literary agent and things of that nature, but it looks like from, I'm sorry, I wrote her name, Carla. Do you have, I just want to ask a question about your book. Is it instrumental in giving directive, like, one step, two step, whatever the case is, the how-tos of things when self-publishing? I'm really looking for, just a great outline as to how from A to Z.
From A to Z, yes.
This is my first real book. So I'm just making sure I dot my I's and cross my T's as best as I can. I'll follow up with a second one at some point, but this is my first stab and I had a few hiccups along the way, and I'm really just trying to, not waste more money or time or effort or energy. So I'm just glad to be here with you guys.
Thank you and welcome. We're glad to have you here. Yes. Wow. The self-publishing journey is long and sometimes tedious. And my book, The Self-Publishing Bootcamp Guide for Independent Authors, 5th edition, is a step-by-step A to Z guide on how to do it correctly. The good news is you don't always have to do everything. You can hire a virtual assistant or author assistant and other experts to help you with uploading to Amazon and Ingram Spark and creating your email funnels and all the marketing stuff as well, because you're going to have to be marketing during your book publishing journey to get your platform built and awareness about the book happening before the book is launched. And so that requires things like pre-sales and pre-order implementation. And there are a lot of people who know exactly how to do this. So I would recommend that you read my guide and you read Stephanie's guides and decide what you want to do and what you are good at and what you can hire out. And of course, we have lots of resources for certified and reputable author assistants and marketing professionals and publishing professionals as well. So it pays to know all the bits and bytes of the journey, all the details, so you can hire smart. Some people hire somebody who says they can do the whole thing for them or part of it for them. But if you don't know what is required, you can't really interview them. So be careful of that, Diane.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you, Diane. Julia, how are you?
Good. Hello. And yeah, Carla and Stephanie, you both know that my third book, Beyond the Green Team, came out last November. And what I've been focusing on this year is going back to my original intention, with the book, which is it's supposed to be a springboard to my consulting services that I'm really trying to work harder to get off the ground, and to give away as many digital copies as I can, because that's the idea. And who cares if it's taking on Amazon? That's not the point. So I'm trying to stay true to that. So I actually asked one of my contacts, I gave him a coupon code to share with his audience that gave them it free on my website. And so I've got like 40 some people who took him up on that, which is great. And I've created like this short 2 email sequence for them once they join my list. And that, because it says when you buy something from my website that you're going to join my list and you can unsubscribe, etc. So there's like a first, thank you so much for downloading this book. And there's another one that's kind of like, here's who I am. And I hope what takeaways are you getting? I hope you've had a chance to read it, kind of thing. And so I guess the question is, if you have advice of how to kind of continue that relationship. These are people I had never heard of before. They are all brand new to me, which is super cool. But how to develop those connections.
Who are the target connections, Julia? What is their role in business?
So these are people that work, ideally people that work at manufacturing companies, and they are all connections of my contact who runs a consulting firm all about the circular economy. A curious thing, there's several people who work at Wiley who took it. And I'm like, that's interesting. But anyway.
Be aware though, Wiley's changed a lot. I have a book with Wiley and they used to be great. And now when they take an author on, they require the author to buy thousands of copies. So you're essentially paying them anyway. But that's a side note.
Okay. Anyway, not that I was planning on publishing anything with Wiley, but I just thought that was interesting.
No,
but
it is interesting.
Hopefully most of them are people working in manufacturing who are interested in sustainability and interested in incorporating it into their organizations and might potentially have me help them with that process.
Have you looked into purchasing a list of manufacturing company employees? Is it manufacturing the only target, or is it other types of business?
So, that's primarily, and honestly, in terms of my marketing effort, where I've realized really going after the semiconductor manufacturing industry, because that's where I originally come from. That's where I have 20 plus years of experience, connections, knowledge of the industry jargon, all that. And I will certainly work with people in other industries. And I have contacts in other manufacturing industries, but that's really the primary thing.
Okay, you'd probably be surprised. A couple thoughts on this. It's relatively inexpensive to buy a mailing list. The company that I've used in the past is Info USA. They've been acquired, but the link will take you to the new name of the company. But Info USA, you can buy lists of dentists in, Southern California. You can buy lists of semiconductor CEOs. You just have lists of everybody, right? I'm on lists. I get stuff for publishers and things like that. So I would say that would be a really great investment for you, and it probably won't be very expensive. I'm a big fan of the old school postcard campaign. Not enough people use them, especially authors. And I think that you could be offering copies to those employees. So if I were in your shoes, I would probably do a postcard campaign that's got your book cover on the front, and on the inside, it's got the brief description, and here's a link to download a free copy, and then follow up with those people the minute, or within a few days of them downloading a copy. But I would create that as a lead tool. And then the other thing is LinkedIn. Obviously, I'm assuming you're leveraging LinkedIn.
That's where I'm using a lot. And I said, once I posted, once Paul posted that thing on LinkedIn, I got, dozens of orders within hours, which was that was great. So I guess if I'm buying a list, I feel like, well, these people haven't given me permission to market to them or to send anything to them. So aren't I spamming them?
It's direct mail. Direct mail has different rules than email. So you can mail postcards to anybody, really.
Okay.
It's different than invading an email box. Although there's email lists for sales, I don't know how they get around all of that. But that gets back to that traditional postcard campaign. I don't see enough of it. I'd love to see authors doing that more often. And by the way, you can also send postcards to librarians if you're targeting libraries with your book. And then
I did buy an ad in a college and academic library list from IBPA. So I'll see what that hasn't come out yet. I'll see if I get.
Yeah, but you can
from that.
also buy lists of librarians and directly mail postcards to them. So
Okay.
you have a really niche book. So I'm not entirely sure that's a great focus for you, but I do think colleges could potentially be interested in your book. And then the LinkedIn, back to the LinkedIn thing, use advanced search to locate people in semiconductor. I don't know what their job positions are, but maybe you're looking for C-level or directors or whatever the decision maker level is. Searching through LinkedIn with one of their paid accounts can get you, help you build your own list of people.
Yeah.
And that's a great job for an assistant to go out and you get a list of names at certain companies and have them build your mailing list for you, or just go buy a mailing list.
Okay. Yeah. I've got a
All right.
list and I can ask her to do that.
Carla, did you want to add anything else before we
I
move?
don't, that was it, but I'd love, Julia, to hear about your experience with the IBPA list that you paid for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'd love to know the result of that. So thank you. All right, Gary.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay now?
Yeah, how are you?
Good, nice to talk to you. Hey, so I took your course over the summer, and I was hooked from then on. And I've been reading your books. I self-published a few years ago, a few books back when I was ordering thousands and filling my house with books. My wife was begging me to sell them. And fortunately, I had a big platform. I was a news anchor, so I was able to move thousands of books. We raised all the money for charity, so that was kind of cool. So now I'm taking it to the next step. Now I'm no longer a news guy, and I'm going after my first memoir, which will be coming out in June. I'm mixing my work with a traditional publisher for this piece, but I'm also working on 5 other books of my own that I plan on self-publishing now with some of the tools I'm getting from you and all these people here that are so nice and kind to share all their talents and their information. My biggest question is a publicist, and I know that's a question a lot of you have probably thought about at some point. I really want to launch strong because I have 4 or 5 more of this style of nonfiction book ready to go. So I want really good, solid numbers coming out of the gate, and I want to reach a lot of people with it so that I can make some connections. And they had recommended a publicist, and I checked with someone in New York, and I got a figure for $30,000. And I started saying, wow, sounds great to have links to book clubs and speaking engagements and blog lists and all this stuff. But for $60K, it didn't make any sense to me, not nowadays with so many tools out there. So my question to you is, and hopefully other people will benefit from this, are there other places we can go to get some of the information like blog list or podcast list, places that want people like us to come on and share our stories?
Carla, you want to go first? I feel like I'm taking over.
That was a lot. Which question did you want to answer first? Just the where you can find a list of bloggers.
Yeah, so I guess the overall question is, I assume you're probably recommending that if you're going to self-publishing route, you necessarily don't need a publicist.
So
you can find a
This
lot
is
of
a
these
virtual assistant conversation.
Okay.
Right?
well, it's both. I mean, I did do a podcast with I forget her name now, but it's called Your Publisher Wants You to Hire a Publicist, but You Don't Have to. And that was, I think, in May I did that. And she's a publicist and a marketing person. And that's interesting. I can tell you that there are lists of podcasters, and podcasters, I can say from having been a podcaster for many years and also interviewing people weekly, podcasters have a huge struggle getting guests on a consistent basis. So I had a client who did a book on Bitcoin a few years ago, and he wrote for The Economist, for Forbes, for, all kinds of big magazines. And he started getting interviews on these tiny little cryptocurrency podcasts. And he sold more books from people with podcasts of an audience with an audience of less than 1,000 than he did from a place like Forbes. So there are lists of podcasts. There are lists somewhere. It's easily Googleable.
There's services like Podmatch and things like
Mhm.
that. And then we send out every Friday our media leads. So we're
Right.
curating those. So those are going out to all the members every Friday. All of these things are acquirable, Gary. And this is why I'm such a proponent of virtual assistants, because I think publicity is great if you have different goals. You know, some people want publicity. Maybe you're trying to impress the New York publishers, or you're trying to build a career as a speaker or a consultant. And you want to be able to say you've been in, the New York Times and Good Morning America. But Carla said it, you rarely sell books directly from media. Even authors who've been on Oprah have told me, Oprah didn't hold up my book and say, this is great. So it didn't sell. Nobody, it was in the little banner. So, and you being a news guy probably know this better than anyone. Media, it's not, I don't often recommend that to authors. So I would rather see you hire an assistant and build a marketing plan that your assistant, a savvy assistant who has experience working with authors, can help you execute. And I will also say that sometimes more than one assistant makes sense because they all have different strengths and skills. I'm always really passionate about this. So sorry, I just totally hijacked this conversation, but I just hate to see people wasting money and time on strategies that are not going to net the results that you expect.
Sure. Well, I did see Carla's link on VAs now, which is of considerable interest to me because I have a lot of other things going on as well. And for clarification, I just joined with you guys officially like a day or two ago, and I'm already going through so much information. So the learning curve is big for me to stay up to date on this stuff. It's changed so much since I was last doing this, but I just want to tell you, there's tremendous resources. And Stephanie, in your book alone, I have a highlighter and it's already like all over the place. I'm on the treadmill 2 days now, filling out everything. I think I just highlighted the whole book. So nice job on that.
Thank you kindly, Gary, and welcome to our community. I mean, we're here to help. So I'm very glad to hear that.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I just want to expand on what Stephanie said about goals. That's extremely important to have both literary goals, what you want your writing to accomplish, and publishing goals, what you want to see happen with your book. And one of the ways to be clear about this is to talk to people writing the kinds of books you're writing. In other words, this organization is a fabulous example of how you're not alone, but also very specifically in your field. What do authors experience in self-publishing a book in your field? How many copies do they sell? And how do they do that? I mean, key pieces of that are being as visible as possible. Books most likely to generate excitement on publication when it's news, but there's 1 million books self-published a year. So that's a tricky thing. At the heart of being a successful author today is doing exactly what you're doing, and that's to write a series of books that sell each other and build an audience with every book. You keep building it. And you also keep building a mailing list, which is a crucial piece of this. A money list that you can go to for whatever it is you sell.
I want to add something because I think this is relevant to all of you. Pitching podcasts, I think, is one of your best strategies, hands down. And Carla's, agrees, right? Podcasts are amazing. And even a smaller podcast that maybe doesn't have a massive audience, if you're targeting a podcast that reaches your target audience, that is worth its weight in gold. Right. So like for me, I just did several publishing related podcasts at the end of last year. And some of them were smaller, but I got people reaching out as a result of those interviews over and over. Would it make sense for me to go and be on somebody's parenting podcast? No, it's not my target audience. And I get asked for these things all the time. Will you come on my podcast about raising kids or teens or whatever? And it's not at all my space. So I have to decline those invitations. So be mindful of that when you're looking for podcasts and pitching them. Maybe you want to get experience and try out everything, but at some point you want to stop saying yes to everything and make sure you're using your time wisely and pitching the right programs. Does that help everybody?
I'm going to just add one more thing to that, because this is also for everyone. as someone who has been a magazine publisher and a podcast host and who has created anthologies, I get queries from a million people, and I would say 95% of them submissions don't even follow the rules that I set on the submission page.
True.
They make it very hard. All they want to do is promote their book, right? Or promote their thing. And I don't want somebody who wants to promote their book. I want somebody who wants to help my audience do what they need to do. Right. And the book is mentioned maybe at the beginning and the end. So you have to think like the host and the publisher and not just say, buy my book, and think of angles and make it very easy for them to grab your bio and your materials with a media kit on your website and things like that. I don't want to be asking for square JPEGs, and, you all need to know how to, put those on your website now without instruction. So be very careful and follow the instructions given.
Well said, Carla. All right. Thanks again, Gary. Welcome to our community. Hey there, Shelley. How are
Hi,
you?
everyone. I'm good. It's actually quite nice up in Calgary.
Great.
It's around
Good.
freezing. My question is around, I have a really niche topic, and Carla knows she's been in some groups with me, and I really listened to what Carla has to say, and I've figured out the structure of how my book's going to go around language, but because it is so niche, it's around disability and language. Most of the books, I've only seen one that's self-published. Most are traditional published. I'm not sure if I should go self-published or traditional published, and because I live in Canada, I lose 25 cents to the dollar for American. So it's really expensive. So I have to be very mindful of my money, because I lose money every time I do conversions in the States. So I want to know whether I should self-publish or traditional publish, just because I want to be mindful of my money.
So this is a conversation about the pros and cons of traditional versus self-publishing. One of my favorite topics, because there really are pros and cons on both sides. So traditional publishing, pros, right? No money up front. They do all the heavy lifting. They're doing all the book production. They're providing the editors. They're doing the cover design. They're paying you in advance up front. But the downside of traditional publishing is you'll probably earn about $1 a book. It often takes a year to get the book published and on the shelves. You will have no control. I've had covers I don't like. I've had titles change. I've had chapters removed from my book for arbitrary reasons. So there's some frustrations there. Self-publishing, easier than ever to do. You could tomorrow self-publish your book. I wouldn't recommend it. Please do it the proper way and get editing and professional design and all of those things. But you do spend money. You spend money up front. And then on the backside, you're making more money per book, and you're in all the online retail channels. Now, I will say I don't believe bookstores are where we should be trying to sell books today. Amazon, we believe, has 70% plus of the book buying market. So to worry about getting placed in Barnes and Noble when we have one closing here in Sacramento is just not the best use of your time, especially with a niche title like yours, Shelley. So I would bet that there are some smaller presses that would be interested. I would look for similar books to what you're writing and find out who's publishing them, because this is definitely a small, mid-sized press play. Michael and Carla, if you want to chime in on that.
Well, clearly for a book this particular, if you can find a press that publishes in this field that knows the markets for it and knows how to reach them, that's a significant advantage. This is not a big money book, regardless of who publishes it. So the challenge is who could do the best job of both producing it and marketing to it and keeping it on their backlist, because that's what they do. So it's a backlist oriented book, and the whole value of this book is going to keep on selling. So to find a house that believes in it and knows how to market it, that's a significant difference. That quite sure how that can be.
That's a smart point, Mike, because I would say a smaller press that specializes
Yeah.
in books about disability are going to have special distribution channels for those books, right? Organizations and things like that. So it's
is one in
probably
Canada.
worth exploring. There's one in Canada.
So
Arsenal Press, they actually press, they print a lot of anti-oppression books.
mhm.
They usually have submission guidelines on the website. So, to Carla's
Yeah.
point earlier, follow their specific guidelines step by step by step. And, just understand there's a downside to that. But Mike's point of, it's not going to be a big moneymaker either way, probably makes sense for you to just let somebody else do the heavy lifting on that book.
You want to think about separate publishers for the United States and Canada too.
And that's an interesting point. Okay.
Okay.
Carla, you good?
I'm good. I just want to say that small publishing companies are eager to make hybrid distribution deals. And if you come to them with a fully baked book that they don't really have to do much with, they have the distribution channels. So keep that in mind.
Good point.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shelley. Hey, Lori, you're back.
Oh, Maureen, we've got also Maureen, Natasha, and Natasha.
Okay.
Just again, real quick on the nuts and bolts. I'm trying to get into BookFunnel to distribute ARCs. And I'm just brand new, and there's two questions that are related. How do readers how do they use BookFunnel? Do they have to have the BookFunnel app in order to read the book? Or because on BookFunnel, you can upload a PDF, an EPUB file, and they still have Mobi listed. But this goes to my second question, which I think Amazon is moving away from Mobi and doing their own version of EPUB. I wanted to know if you knew anything about that.
Yeah,
But
the good news is you don't have to worry about it. Put it on BookFunnel, and BookFunnel handles the delivery to the customer. If the customer says they have a Kindle, they'll click the Kindle button. If they want the PDF, they'll click the PDF button, and you can send an EPUB to Amazon now. So these tools handle all of this for you. And I believe there's a YouTube video. BookFunnel has a great YouTube video on the customer experience, and you can experience it by purchasing for zero, by downloading a book. I think it's Alice in Wonderland. So go ahead and do that.
okay, so Mobi is not a thing anymore.
Only for people who want it in Mobi format. It's in legacy now.
Old readers and things.
Yeah.
Book digital readers, things like that. It's a great tool. It's really easy to use. We've been
So
using it
great.
for a lot of stuff. Be nice if we could get them to give our members some sort of discount.
I'm working on it.
Carla's working on it. All right. Thanks, Lori. Maureen, go ahead and unmute.
So
Hi,
we
everybody.
have 10 minutes
Hi.
left. Okay.
I have a quick question. Two simple, very simple questions, I think. But first, I want to start by saying thank you so much to both Stephanie and Carla. I'm in the process right now of self-publishing, and I'm in the design phase. My book's being designed. I've already had the cover designed, and I'm designing a web page, a website. And all the resources I got were from the nonfiction website. So I chose my editor from there. She chose the designer. And then also just the other day, I found a website designer on your website. So I'm really happy about that.
Wonderful. Thank you. That's great to hear.
So I'm doing it's a World War II. I saw someone else is doing the same thing. It's a World War II biography memoir. And so anyway, my question is really simple. And just today this happened. The designer, I got the first proof back from the interior, and I'm in Tahoe, and I found a printer to print it just so I could just see what the font looks like. It's 11.5 font. I know this is such a simple question, but to me it looks a little bit big. Do you have any thoughts about that? It almost looks like a textbook. Should I go down a little bit? I don't know. Does anybody have any thoughts on 11.5 font for a nonfiction book?
Carla, I'm gonna lob that one to you.
Wow.
That sounds big to me.
So,
I don't
you
design
know,
my own books, but I think we're at
it-
like the 10-point
It's
fonts.
interesting because some fonts in 11 point look huge and some fonts look small, like
Oh, maybe it's a style of font.
it's a style of font. And if you think it looks bad and it doesn't look like the other books in your genre,
Yeah,
change it. So
it's
what?
11.5
Yeah, 11.
Is the font itself? Is it
For
like
the
a
font.
Times
Is
New
the
Roman?
font-
for the text, for the paragraphs, not for the actual paragraphs. Yeah.
Sure. So look at the other books in your genre and see what they are using
Yeah.
and see what the leading is and, the spaces between
Yeah.
the lines and how they're formatted, and
Yeah.
instruct your interior designer to do the same. They should have already. That brings up a little, warning bell for me.
And your designer may favor larger fonts. Sometimes
Mhm.
they,
Maybe with that font.
Carla and I arm wrestle about fonts because I like them larger. I'm, half blind, so.
Yeah. I
No,
showed it to a few people. They think it looks great, but to me, it's bothering me. So I think
Uh-huh.
I'll have her do it, just maybe down to 11. So I know that's a basic.
Well,
simple question.
end user input is really important. So
Yeah.
you may want to put it out on your Facebook page, show everybody a few pages and ask them what they think. I would go with
Mhm.
the
Age
user
of audience,
experience.
Julia, I was just thinking that in my head, the age of your audience matters as well.
Yeah.
Someone in their 20s can read the teeniest, tiniest font.
Yeah.
The rest of us can't.
But
so.
remember that your page, if it's a smaller font, the whole book is going to need to flow differently. Your page count is going to go down, which could be
Yeah.
a good thing as well. So,
Yeah.
but you can increase your gutter margins in the print edition. And remember that in the ebooks, it doesn't matter. The user is going to change the font to whatever they want.
Right.
So, mhm.
Okay. And then thank you very much. My second quick question is in designing the website. I'm not really, and I don't use social media a lot. I know you're probably cringing. So I'm going to start off not using like Facebook and all those icons on my webpage. I was just going to maybe do an email, like I have an author email, and start with that. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, I will still have links that take them directly to Amazon and all that, but as far as putting all the social media links, I wasn't going to start with that.
Are you going to collect email addresses?
Yes.
That's to me more important personally. I would rather have email addresses than a social media account every day, all day. I've been saying for a while now, I don't think social media is mandatory. I think it's been oversold to us. It's great if you can build an audience and if you want to pick one or two networks where your audience spends time and do those well, but you don't need to be in all of them. And if you don't want to be in any of them, I don't think that's the end of the world. I would be collecting email addresses. And I will say, one of the ways that I like to use social media is to bring people to the website to sign up for the emails, right? But if that's not your top priority right now, Maureen, I would skip it and maybe reconsider it later.
Okay.
Can I
Thank
say something
you.
about type fonts for a sec? Since time immemorial, the standard typeface in publishing has been 12-point Times Roman.
Yep.
But let me ask a question. Is something that's fascinating to me. Apparently, sans serif faces are more readable online, and serif faces are more readable in print.
Yep.
Fascinating distinction. But what does this mean when you're actually publishing a book? Can you do it both ways? So your online versions are in sans serif, and the typeset book is in serif. I mean, how does that work? So it's more
Yeah.
readable in the edition. How does that?
The ebook is going to be whatever the user wants it to be.
Okay, so that's not a fact.
Convert. We're only
Reader
talking
sets
about the
their own.
conversion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, fascinating. Okay.
And that's one reason to love ebooks, because you can increase the font size for me. Thanks, Maureen. Appreciate
Okay,
you.
thank you so much.
Hi, is it Natasha? Am I saying that right?
It's Natasha, yes. Natasha.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm very, very grateful to be part of this platform. I've been a silent member for a few years now. And I just recently, decided to partake in the paid membership. And the reason I did so is because I am a physician. I'm a pediatrician, but also a travel enthusiast. And during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic when my clinics closed, I love writing and I love to input my my thoughts on paper. And so when my clinics closed during the pandemic, I was able to write my travel memoir. And it was, you know, it was a blessing, obviously, to be able to do that. However, because of the pandemic and as a physician, it was very, very taxing and I wasn't able to go back into the book. But because of your website, I was able to finally get my book developmentally edited last year. So this year, a lot of things happened last year after that, but this year I am ready. I've been watching and doing a lot of the online workshops that you guys do regarding self versus traditional publishing. And of course, the best route for me at this point probably would be the self-publishing route. The only thing is because I am a world traveler, I also follow a lot of world traveling, travel enthusiasts and influencers on social media. But it's funny that you mentioned the social media aspect right before I asked my question, because that was my exact question. Is I'm not social media averse, but I'm also not, I don't have the influencer personality where every day someone posts something on social media. It's not, I'm very private and it's just not me. However, I also know that in order to market a book, you have to be, you know, you have to sell yourself. And I didn't know that there was an alternative to selling myself in this day and age besides social media. And that was my biggest fear. And because my book is not just a travel memoir for the entire world, it's actually very niche in that I traveled obviously as a African-American woman, a lot of it by myself, but also while scared. I'm scared of everything actually. Traveling while real. And so that like literally is the first sentence in my book. And therefore, how can I still, you know, when I'm very shy, how can I market myself? And that was my biggest angst, I guess, as far as self-publishing, though I know traditional publishing routes also don't market for you. So I really love the email list ideas, but I would love when I do all my work. And also another thing that you did help me within this Zoom is the virtual assistant or the author's assistant, which I didn't even know was a thing. That I'm very grateful for that. That literally helps me out a lot, because unfortunately, you know, because of my work, it's hard to juggle the two at times. But also, how do I market myself without necessarily being heavy on social media? Thank you.
Carla, this is your genre.
Travel. This is my genre. Travel is very favors Instagram, van life, you know, adventure moto, whatever. So it would help if you were Instagram friendly. And you can do that, or you can get an assistant to do that. We use Hootsuite at the NFAA, and I use Recur Post, or people use Buffer. So it isn't as hard to manage your social media as you might think, especially with a virtual assistant. It doesn't need to be an author assistant. This could be an even lower cost VA who does social media for you. And they can go into Canva and, you know, create all of these assets with your beautiful pictures from all around the world, and sort of follow influencers for you, right? You don't have to be doing this yourself, and do the research and find out who are the influencers and what niche is compatible with yours and all kinds of things. I mean, they're so much better at it than we are, because this is their job and this is what they love to do. So I want to recommend Instagram especially. And, you know, traveling while scared, that's a great hook, because, you know, that's the first thing. My first chapter of my American Borders book is Aren't You Scared? And, you know, I was a little nervous, but I've been a solo traveler for many, many years, and I am always a little bit nervous. And so that story, that has been published in many magazines and anthologies, is my most popular story, Aren't You Scared? Because it resonates with most people. So I would start publishing also your stories in anthologies and magazines and other outlets anywhere, in exchange, of course, for a bio with a link to your website. So yeah, I really am going to push that author assistant on you, and virtual assistant with Buffer or Recur Post or Hootsuite. Does that sound doable to you?
Yes, this is extremely, you have no idea how much weight they lifted off my shoulders. It's amazing to me. I really, really thank you so much for that. Last year, after my editing homework that I had to do, where I had to kill some of my darlings because my book was too large, I suffered a huge loss and grief, and everything just kind of stopped. And so, of course, grief never ends. And so this really puts a lot of, it helps me out a lot to be able to realize that I can delegate some of these tasks to people who are passionate about the things that I'm not. And thank you for also reminding me that, yes, unfortunately, in my niche, I can't avoid social media but I don't have to necessarily do it all on my own. So
And you don't
this
have
is
to
really
use them all either. Carla, I mean, Carla's
No,
spot on with
Instagram would be it.
Instagram.
And they're
And you
so
can
easily.
batch. You can batch a bunch of content, right? I mean, that's what we do. We create lots of content, and then we have a manager, a social media manager, who puts it out.
I see. Okay. That's very good. I love to read your anthology. Thank you.
Okay, I messaged you so we can
Thank
connect.
you.
Thanks.
I would love that. Thank you so much. This was
So
very
great, so interesting. I want to read about traveling scared, and I was flashing. We have another member of our group, Heidi Eliasson, who did a year of RVing after her divorce and talked about the fear behind that. So I think there's a great thread in there, especially for women traveling alone. Yeah, which I also enjoyed doing when I was young and childless. So, yeah.
Childless and fearless.
Thank you so much. So great to see you.
A book's a great way to build a community. That's a great basis for a community, to create ongoing relationships with your readers. And the challenge is to do in whatever way is comfortable for you, that you'll enjoy doing creatively and consistently and effectively. So and obviously the reaches your audience as well as possible, but you shouldn't do anything you don't enjoy doing. You got to enjoy the process. So obviously getting help will help, but besides putting out material, certainly editors and agents like to see the people also are generating engagement. So it's not just one way you're sending stuff out, but people are responding to it. You have this connection with them, and that's a fabulous opportunity to make fans for life, no matter how you do it, in whatever way is comfortable for you.
I love that you said that, Mike. And it's interesting. Earlier today, when I was doing the drive to school and back, I was listening to the Armchair Expert podcast. Have any of you heard of that, with Dax Shepard? Really fun, like kind of lighthearted. And he was interviewing Dr. Stutz, who's the psychiatrist. They just did a documentary on him. And they were talking about the power of being your authentic self. And I think if you look at any memoir that has sold really well, if you look at, I will say most influencers, not all, but many of the influencers have risen on social media in particular because of that authenticity. You know, Rachel Hollister going up there without makeup on, for example, and her target audience of 22-year-olds is like, wow, that's brave and bold. And so I guess my point of that is, with social media and with everything we do online, I think that you will find all of your efforts will be infinitely more successful if you're honest, if you talk about your failures, if you talk about your fears, if you know what I mean, all those things. I'm getting a little deep on you, but that was fresh in my mind today.
No, not wearing makeup works for me too.
It works for me as soon as this call is over. I'm going into ponytail and pajamas early. I can't believe we don't have, did we really not have any more questions? Carl and I were willing to stay a little longer if anybody has any last minute.
Here comes Lori again, and Julia. Hey.
Oh, we got Lori and Julia. Okay, let's do it. Hey there, Lori.
Oh, mine's super simple. So in your marketing master course, Stephanie, you mentioned it here on this call, bookstores kind of not the place to be. So related to the discount, I know 55% is the standard if you want to be in bookstores. I believe you said you set your discount at 40%.
That's correct.
This is such a rookie thing, but where does the discount come into play if you're not in physical stores? Because isn't all these online retailers just based on a royalty?
It depends on your distribution. So on Amazon, if you're distributing your books or publishing them through KDP only, you don't have a choice in the discount you set there. But if you're publishing through Ingram Spark and distributing your books through them, you get to set the percentage discount on your books that you're offering to wholesalers. So that is true. I only do 40%. It still allows retailers to purchase the book. They don't like it, but it's not my target audience, right? So, but that's only if you're publishing through Ingram Spark. Amazon doesn't give you a choice. You have to go 55%.
Okay, so if I publish through Ingram, because my plan was to do ebook with Amazon, but then to go wide with print. So if another online like bookstore, some people, you know, the website that lets you support your local bookstore, right? They can click on the
Bookshop.org.
website.
Yeah.
Yes. So that platform, my
That's
discount
coming
would
from Ingram. So that is owned by Ingram, by the way. So, and yeah, so as long as your book is available through Ingram, which is the distributor, and if you publish with Amazon, you are available through Ingram at a deeper discount. So either way, your book is going to be widely available.
Okay, so the
But you will
40%
earn more
matters.
if you're able to keep your discount at 40%.
Okay.
I know it's very convoluted.
I think I have a blog post on this somewhere. So if you Google, and it might be on the NFAA site, Google, just email me, Carla@nonfictionauthorsassociation.com, or ask in the Facebook, but you know, yeah, ask in the Facebook group. I'll find it there in the members only group. I'll make a note.
Julia,
Hi there. Just real quick question, which I put in the chat, but I don't think people saw. Is anybody here familiar with Get Abstract? Okay, yeah, because they reached out to me and they put summaries of business books up on their website, and it seems like a program where they give it for free to the authors, and then the people subscribe, and then they pay a monthly thing and they get these lists of books. Anyway, so I'm like,
yeah, there's more and more of those. I subscribe to Blinkist, which is similar. I get summaries of books there. I mean, I think it's good visibility. Seth Godin, I come from the school of Seth Godin marketing, and he's all about give it away, right? Give it away, get it in as many hands as possible, as many eyeballs as possible. I don't think there's anything wrong as long as they're a legit firm. So just do your due diligence.
yeah,
there.
yeah, it looks like it. And they give the book a rating. They have like a 1 to 10 scale. Well, they said if it's lower than a 5, it's not gonna be on their list. But in any case, so a 5 to 10. And they write a summary, which again, I can include bits from the books, but it's like they write a summary and post it on. So I'm like,
Fantastic. It looks
so I'm
great.
like, they said they choose books, and they chose, you know, first you're like, we chose your book. I'm like, it's probably one of those, we chose your book, pay us $5,000 and we'll
right.
make you a bestseller. But it wasn't actually. So maybe it's legit. Okay.
There's also something
right.
called short form. A short form also has varying viewpoints besides summarizing the book. And they also have articles as well, short form. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. I love those tools. Because there'll never be enough hours in a day to read all the books.
Yeah.
Hi, Laura. Oh,
Hi, everybody. Good to see you. Good to meet you. Thanks for doing this. It's been amazing so far. I know it's getting late, but I got so excited when you started talking about postcard marketing, because I'm like such a big fan of mail. Like every time I still look at my postcards, and I've at least everybody that sent me a resume has got an interview from me. Like, so I believe that snail mail is now like that golden egg. But what would be the context that we would send postcards, and to whom?
So great questions. So, I mean, it's all about your target audience. So who is it that you want to reach with your book? So you and I know each other already. We've familiar with your work. So Laura's a therapist, a couples therapist, very highly regarded, works with the Gottman Institute, all of those great things. And I would say one of your targets is other therapists, right, that could recommend the book. So that's a great example, right? So if you were to acquire a list, purchase a list, whatever you do, of other therapists, And then, and you can, by the way, these lists can be massive. They can be hundreds of thousands, 10,000 people. You can buy a small sample. You could buy 500 names and do a small postcard mailing. This is what we call test marketing, right? So you would do a small postcard mailing, and that postcard would have a nice, beautiful photo of the book and then a description and, you know, big bold letters. Would you like a free download, free copy? Requested here, and then have a landing page where they can get your book funnel link or whatever it is, and they have to give you their contact information so that you can then follow up with it. But I've done this in the past where all kinds of contacts, like corporate sponsors, and even think widely about who should have your book, that would refer your book to their people, that would read it themselves, that could use it in their college courses, that, you know, whatever your target is, those are the people, and then ask them if they want a copy, because you've just created what we call a warm lead, right? This is somebody who now has your best work, and you have their contact information. This is sales gold.
I love this. I'm so excited.
Good. I'm glad. I'm so glad you asked about that, because I know it's very old school to talk about direct mail, but I think it's great. And I'm with you. I enjoy mail. How do you not see a postcard in your stack of mail? It's different if you have to open an envelope, and that's always been the case with direct mail. So postcards are inexpensive. By the way, I love psprint.com. If you're looking for a good print service, psprint.com. A lot of the printers will do your mailings for you. So it's great options there. I'm so glad you asked the question. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Natasha. Welcome back. It's great to, we can't hear you yet.
Sorry, I'm
Here we
back.
go. Hi.
So as far as just practical steps, I did the developmental, I think it was specifically called story grid diagnostics. What would the next step be that a copy editing, once I'm done with my current editing stage? What would you consider?
Carla,
You're
you want
done?
to take?
Thank you. You're done with your developmental editing, you said?
Mhm.
Yeah, and you're done implementing all that. Once you're done with that, you'll need a line editor and or copy editor. They're often the same person, and they'll make your sentences beautiful, you know, and your writing lovely, and maybe encourage you to use more sensory detail and things like that. And then finally, for everybody, please use a proofreader before you go to print. It's the cheapest and the most overlooked step. I actually did a podcast interview with Joellen. With the with editors, EFA, Stephanie.
Editorial
Editorial-
Freelancers Association.
Yes.
Which is a great
and-
resource for finding editors, editorial freelancers.
Such a great resource, and that's published on the podcast now. And the speaker explained every single kind of editing, what it is, what it costs, and when to do it. So I hope you'll look at the podcast, and just look for on YouTube the Nonfiction Authors Association podcast, and you'll find it, and you can subscribe.
Thank you so much. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Very helpful.
This was so fun. Did you all find this useful? Did you learn a few things, get some ideas? Yes. I always think it's so interesting to hear what other authors are doing or struggling with, so I hope that you found it useful and a good use of your time, and that maybe you'll join us again next month. And this is, excuse me, kind of a high level version of what we're also doing every month in the author brainstorm exchange. So if you haven't attended those yet, they're on the first Wednesday every month. They're early, early, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. And that's where attendees go into small groups. And you'd be amazed. We have a lot of publishing pros who attend. So you'll have a range of experience levels in each group. Mike attends, Carla attends. And those are a lot of fun as well, because you'd be surprised how much you can help each other through this process too. But I would love to see you come back. This is, I'm sure Carla enjoyed this as much as I did. It's always
Oh my
fun to
gosh.
do these.
I
types of
did. I
things.
heard of some new tech tools that I need to check out and geek out on from the consumer's guide. So thank you for
We
that.
learn too, right? It's
We learn
always good
too,
to
and
hear
I'm
about things.
so always interested in looking at these things that you're finding, because you do the Google thing and you're not always getting the good stuff. So I'm all about proving it for you or saying stay away. So
That's right.
whenever you have a question, just ask it in the Facebook group and I'll be right on it.
And thanks for mentioning the Facebook group. I hope you're all spending time there. And if you're not, please do. Carla and I are both active there. You can get questions answered there too. And then other members participate in questions there. I saw Hannah gave a lovely response to a post I was reading yesterday. I think you did a great job. So it's just fun to see more and more engagement and everybody supporting each other. And I would love to see more support with, book launches and stuff like that. So the more we do these things, we get to know what each other does. That's a way that you can all start building relationships with each other too. Okay. Any final questions? I wish I thought to take a photo. I'm sorry. But we did record, so we can pull something. It just won't be everybody smiling.
Oh, darn.
But I appreciate you all so much. I hope to see you again next month. See you in Facebook. We are here for you. And just so appreciate you all.
I'll take a picture now. Yay.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great evening.
You too.